If you've been on X this month, you've probably noticed something strange happening. The tech bros have got a brand new obsession. Some people have 2. One dev even had 5 of these bad boys. It's like being back in March 2020 hunting for toilet paper. What am I talking about? I'm talking about Mac Minis. So why is this Silicon Valley's favourite new toy? What does this have to do with AI? And I'm going to let you in with a little secret. You can use something else for 1/10 of the price for the same results. Stay tuned till the end. You've probably seen that there is a brand new AI tool on the market doing the rounds. It was originally called Clawdbot, but as of this morning, it's now called Moltbot, because the product is not affiliated or created by Anthropic. So they, of course, had something to say about the potential trademark infringement here. So the pitch is seductive. It's an AI assistant that runs 24/7, controls your computer, manages your messages, and it basically becomes your digital butler. Now, this is probably what AGI means to most people. Remember when Dorkesh Patel asked Sholto Douglas in Trenton Brickham why an AI could not yet book him a flight or do his tax returns? Well, now it kind of can. Emphasis on the kind of. So, what is Moltbot? Let's break it down in more detail. It's an open source project with over 40,000 stars on GitHub, and it's created by Peter Steinberger, who previously founded PSPD-FKit. And at its core, Moltbot is a gateway daemon. Think of it as like a middleman. It sits between you and an AI model like Claude or Qwen, and it also connects to your messaging apps, so WhatsApp, Telegram, even iMessage. Now, you authenticate it once and suddenly you can text your AI assistant just like you text a friend. So you can sit on WhatsApp and say, what's on my calendar tomorrow? Or you're on the train, you can message, draft a reply to that email from Sarah, tell her I'm interested, but I can't do Tuesday. Or you can tell it to open Chrome, go to Google Doc that I was working on and add a paragraph summarizing the key points. Now, of course, you can do a lot of this already with MCP servers, but it is a pain to set up. See, MCP servers running on your desktop are pretty seamless, but getting remote ones that can work from your phone up and running in the cloud is a pretty big challenge, and it can also only run for as long as your machine is online. So then, what does that have to do with Mac Minis? Why is everybody buying up Mac Minis? Well, the dream is you set up a Mac Mini, you install Moltbot, connect it to your WhatsApp, and then you've got a computer that's always on, always connected, it's always ready to do your bidding from anywhere in the world. So if you're on holiday in Sri Lanka, you can text your Mac Mini in London, check if that invoice came through, and if it did, forward it to my accountant. And there's also something about just having a little computer working away for you while you're sipping a coconut on the beach, like you're living the dream. But let's be honest about what's actually happening here. Most people buying Mac Minis for this, they're going to set them up, they're going to feel very clever about it, and then realize they've just spent $600 on a computer that sits in the corner, is draining power, and occasionally responding to WhatsApp messages. So it does feel a bit like everyone's buying a treadmill in January. But there is a way you can jump on this without buying new hardware. First though, let's do a bit of a deeper dive into what Moltbot can actually do and what it can't do. Now, to be fair, when Moltbot works, it genuinely is impressive, but getting it to work can be a bit of a battle here. And remember, it's open source, it's been spun up, so it can be patchy, but let's walk through some of the actual use cases. So messaging integration. Now, this is a killer feature. You can interact with Claude or whatever model you're running directly from WhatsApp or Telegram. There's no need to open an app, there's no need to copy or paste, you can just text. It has persistent memory. Now, unlike ChatGPT, where every conversation starts fresh, Claudebot remembers context across sessions. It knows you prefer morning meetings, it builds a picture of your life. Now, I want to talk about this in a little bit more detail because I think this is pretty smart and this is one of the headline features. So this is how Moltbot's memory system actually works. So Moltbot uses Markdown. It stores its memory as plain Markdown files in a workspace. Typically it's /Claude. And this file-based system creates a source of truth that persists across sessions, reboots, and even if you're using different messaging platforms. Now, it has a really interesting tiered memory structure. It has daily logs, and they are append only files that record the day-to-day conversations and the running context. So the bot will automatically load today and yesterday's logs when you start a session. And it has a memory MD file, a curated file storing distilled knowledge, user preferences, major decisions, and durable facts that should persist. There's a configuration file with additional context files like a user MD, soul MD, that's the personality traits, agents MD, what agents are available, and identity, the bot's identity. There's session transcripts, so complete conversation logs stored as JSON-L files, And when you send a message, Moltbot uses semantic search to find relevant information from its memory files. So it breaks markdown files down into 400 token chunks with 80 token chunk overlap, then searches these chunks using vector embeddings. So the bot has two memory tools, a memory search for semantic lookup and a memory get for reading specific memory files. Now, cast your mind back to that paper we talked about from Google on infinite context windows, Google's infinite attention. It supposed a similar summarization architecture when mapping the relationships between the tokens and the weights became too big for the transformer system to handle. The model would simply step in and summarize. We've also seen DeepSeek make progress with their sparse attention mechanism. Now this takes a different approach. Uses this two-stage pipeline, a lightning indexer, which quickly identifies relevant excerpts from the entire context window, and then a fine-grained token selection, which narrows down the most critical tokens. Now Moltbot is following a similar strategy, but at the middleman RAG layer. So essentially, instead of trying to solve the long-term memory problem, we're just being selective about what information the model needs at any given point. The critical flaw in all of these designs is that they won't remember every single thing you've told it at once. Now, all these current solutions, whether architectural, infinite attention, sparse attention, or system level, Moltbot's RAG, they're fundamentally selective compression and retrieval strategies. They're betting that not every piece of information is equally relevant at every moment, which is usually, but critically, not always true. Now let's talk about the computer control by Playwright. So this is the control your computer bit. So Moltbot can spin up a browser, can navigate to websites, fill in forms, check buttons. It's using Playwright under the hood, the same tool that developers use for automated testing. So you could tell it, go to train line, find me the cheapest ticket to, say, Manchester tomorrow, and screenshot the options. And of course it would, unless it encountered a CAPTCHA. Clawdbot also has this concept of skills. Now these are essentially plugins that extend what it can do. That's a calendar integration, email drafting, file management. And we talked about how Claude's skills are a game changer in our deep dive into Claude's latest features. It's also got multimodal support, and this is something that surprised me. You're not locked into Claude. Clawdbot supports OpenAI, Anthropic, and crucially, it also supports Qwen. Clawdbot supports most models, including Qwen, through something called Qwen Portal, and that has a free tier of 2,000 requests a day. So yep, you guessed it right. You can run this thing for free, well kind of, and we're going to come back to the cost of everything a bit later. Now here's what these Mac Mini evangelists don't always mention. Moltbot needs to be running to respond to messages. If your Mac goes to sleep, if your internet drops, if there's a power cut, you're not getting responses. And those computer control features, they're cool in demos, but in practice, as we said, you're dealing with CAPTCHAs, two-factor authentication, websites that don't render properly, and the general chaos of trying to automate a website that was designed for humans. Now, we've actually talked about this in a previous episode. I think we're heading towards two versions of the internet, one for humans, one for AI, precisely because letting agents loose on human websites causes massive problems. And I think protocols like MCP and A2A are really emerging as the solution. And computer control is really experimental, so expect frustration. The token cost can also add up quickly. Some early adopters reported burning through $300 of API credits in a single day. Now that's largely been solved with better rate limiting and the ability to use cheaper models like Qwen with free usage. Here's the bit where I save you £600 and also stop you from letting AI loose to cause havoc on your computer. So Clawdbot's actual resource requirements, they're surprisingly minimum. We're talking about a gigabyte of RAM and 500 megabits of disk space. Now that's all you need. Now you know what else also has 1 gigabyte of RAM? A €3 a month VPS from Gcore. Now of course I would say that, but I am saying this because I think it's genuinely the most sensible option for most people. Now here's what you need to do. You can spin up one of our VPSs, and remember, you get to choose where it's located. You can install Clawdbot, connect it to Qwen Portal for free, then you can add your Claude API key as well if you want the premium experience with the state-of-the-art models. And you can authenticate WhatsApp, but, wait a minute. There are a lot of security concerns here that I need to make you aware of, and you need to make sure that your VPS is fully secure. So hold that thought for a moment. Let's make sure we're fully locked down. Now for most use cases, which is basically texting AI from WhatsApp, do these tasks for me, a VPS is the best solution, and you will need to install some software on the VPS rather than on your local machine, and to have Clawdbot interact with it. Now, getting the cheapest VPS you can find with just one CPU is probably not going to be the best. If you want to load some software on it, you probably want to get a couple, maybe even 8 CPUs could see you well on your VPS. Now, let me quickly walk you through how you'd set this up. If you're going to run it locally, and that's not recommended, you can skip some of this. But if you are going to rent a VPS, then go onto our site, log in, and select the VPS that suits your needs. For Moltbot itself, this will run with just one vCPU configuration, though it won't be optimal, and it almost certainly will need more, depending on what software you want to install. And let's break down these all-important security updates as well. Now, of course, you can set it up and then SSH straight onto the terminal, but you need to make sure your IP for your VPS is not exposed, because otherwise, anyone who knows the publicly available IP can get into not just your Moltbot, but also, by extension, all of your files and all of the tools that you've connected to it. Now, Gcore's VPS actually gives you the option of locking down your VPS and specifying what specific IPs can access it, so that only your IP address can access it. So make sure you get your security fully locked down with your IP address. And next, you want to install Clawdbot. So if you're on a VPS, you want to use the following command. Second thing you need to do is you need to enable the Quen portal plugin, and you can do this by running the following command. And this will take you through to an OAuth flow, and you'll get a device code, you'll visit a URL, authorize, and you're done. That's 2,000 free requests per day, and you don't even need to put in your credit card. Then you need to connect it to WhatsApp, so Clawdbot channels login, and you're live. You can send yourself a WhatsApp message and watch the magic happen. So we've talked about one security aspect of this already, making sure that your IP address is not exposed so that only you can access it. But there is another big security concern you need to be aware of. If you're going to give Moltbot access to your emails, you could fall victim to a prompt injection scam. All it takes is for Moltbot to read one prompt that has been whited out or made really, really small in a junk email, and a bad actor has control over the model. Now, it's not just your model that it has access to, it's everything that you've connected to Moltbot. So you can see then that you don't get the same guardrails or the same safety features that you might get when running tools from one of the big labs. And there's also a reason why a lot of these computer use and vision models are still labeled as alpha and beta. I think Moltbot represents something interesting about where we're headed, and it really is one of those moments that pushes the conversation forward in a new direction. We've spent the last few years with AI trapped inside browser tabs. You go to ChatGPT, you have a conversation, you close the tab, and then it's gone. And when you reach the limit of the conversation, that's really the end of it. And that's not really how an AI assistant should work. What Moltbot and tools like it are pointing towards is a world where AI is ambient. It's just there. You can reach it from any device, any app, any context. It knows who you are and what you're working on. Now, whether you need to run it on a Mac Mini in your apartment or a VPS in Frankfurt, I think that remains to be seen, but the direction of travel is very clear. So let me know in the comments if you've tried Moltbot. What did you use it for? And are you seeing any really interesting use cases? And let me know if you set it up on Gcore's infrastructure. What was the experience like? Every comment helps the channel to grow, so let us know, and I read everyone. And of course, I'll see you in the next video.